He gave the formula away. The business of McDonald's is not hamburgers. The business of McDonald's is... I don't need a job. I don't have a retirement. I don't need a retirement. I don't want the government to take care of me. But I felt a social responsibility to teach. It's passed down genetically. That's the frightening thing. So what Mr. Lipton was saying, what Trump and I are saying, and you know what Jim Rickards and Nomi Prinz and all we're saying. My game financially is business, number one. Second is real estate. And that's why I pay no taxes. That's why Trump pays no taxes. Legally, it is a combination of business and real estate that gives us an unfair advantage over employees because they don't know what to do. I play Monopoly in real life. I don't need a job. I don't have a retirement. Don't need a retirement. I don't want the government to take care of me. But I felt a social responsibility to teach. And that's what my rich dad did for me. I don't know what I was trying to get across. I just, the fact of the matter was I created this board game called Cash Flow.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sell the board game. So I had to write a brochure. And the brochure I wrote was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Cash Flow came out in 1996. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out in 97. So the real fact of the matter is cash flow is about accounting. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book on accounting, income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. But if you've ever taken accounting courses, there is no more course more boring than accounting. So to have Rich Dad, Poor Dad be a book on accounting and be the #1 personal finance book of all times, that says something. And it sold the cash flow game. And today there's thousands of cash flow clubs all over the world. And the mission statement was people teaching people. You can bypass that school system because the school system will never teach you about money. The school system was designed to teach you to be an employee, which is important, or a doctor or a lawyer, a specialist, but never about money. So once I got old enough and I had already retired and I was rich and I was fairly well off, it was kind of a social conscience. I said, I have to share what I know. So that's why it took till 1996 for the cash flow board game to come out, because I could see this crash coming, which came out in 1998. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad came in 97. And the story goes, every publisher turned me down. They said, you don't know what you're talking about. Because they said savers were losers, your house is not an asset, and the rich don't work for money. And so the publishers are like my dad, academic superstars, you know, they're A students in school. And so they turned the book down. And it took going by self-published route. You know, a lot of network marketing companies picked up the book, like Amway and those guys. And they picked up the book to help recruit because it's about financial independence. They're about the same thing I am. And then Oprah called in 2000. And then the next thing I'm on Oprah, and I went from obscurity to world famous, you know, overnight success in 2000. And the book has been on the New York Times bestsellers for 7 years until the New York Times took it off. They said it had been on too long. But as you know, I mean, most people in publishing or journalism, they're on the other side of the coin of capitalism, you know. So they don't like guys who make money. And that's like my poor dad side. Well, the New York Times article is an employee mindset, and they have no financial education. Somebody said Kushner has a loophole called depreciation. I go, you idiot. It's illegal, it's not a loophole. Depreciation is what the government wants us to do. So in other words, there's three things. There's appreciation, amortization, and depreciation. So the way guys like Trump and Kushner and the rich guys do it is called the McDonald's formula of business. So McDonald's has a business, right? They have a hamburger stand. And when you interview Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, if you saw the the movie, The Founder, he gave the formula away. The business of McDonald's is not hamburgers. The business of McDonald's is real estate. And that's the formula. So every time you go past a McDonald's stand, oh, you deserve a break today, eat at McDonald's. But they're not seeing the real game. The game is that little hamburger stand is buying the most expensive real estate in the world. So today, McDonald's owns more real estate than the Catholic Church. But the rich are evil and all that. They just can't see it. So I have the Rich Dad Company in the business side. So let's say I make $1 million. I don't want to pay tax on that. So I take that $1 million, instead of spending it on something stupid, I buy a piece of real estate. So let's say for $5 million. So I go from $1 million to $5 million. Then I appreciate, depreciate, and amortize that $5 million, and it offsets my $1 million in tax. And my father was, for Japanese, very tall, 6'4", and imposing man, good guy. But he says, if you want to learn about money, why don't you ask your best friend's father about money? And I said, why? That's Mike. So why ask him? He says, because Mike's father is an entrepreneur. And I said, what are you? He says, I'm an employee. I'm a government employee. I went, oh, what's the difference? He says, the difference is an entrepreneur must know about money, or they're no longer entrepreneurs. And he says an employee doesn't have to know anything about money, because the government will take care of them, the company will take care of them. So I'm all confused. But I took my dad's advice and I trundled over to Mike's father's office and knocked on his door, and I said, hey, I'm here, 9 years old. Teach me about money. He says, beat it, kid, But that's where the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad started. And finally, through persistence, my rich dad started teaching me about money on one condition. And that condition was he would never pay me. He says, the moment I pay you, you think like an employee. He says, that's the trap. Entrepreneurs work for free. And now I'm 9 years old, my head's cracking in half. He says, you never want a paycheck. You understand that, kid? I said, okay, I got it. And he says, well, how do I make money? He says, that's what entrepreneurs figure out. It's like a cat, which comes first, a cat or the cat chasing its tail. And I said, so how do I learn about money? So he would just break out a Monopoly game board. So I would work for free. I'd pick up cigarette butts, and he had hotels and restaurants, and I would clean and do menial tasks. And as I got older, I started getting into office work and marketing and accounting, and I was an apprentice basically, but I always worked for free. And he would teach me about money, but the way he taught me about money was playing Monopoly. And finally one day I got upset. I said, well, when are you going to teach me about money? He says, what do you think we're doing? We're playing Monopoly. He goes, no. What do you think we're doing? We're playing Monopoly. He says, what do you think we're doing? So I don't know. I'm teaching about money. And then that's when, you have one greenhouse. He says, there's many formulas for great success in money. There's thousands of them. But one of the best ones found on the game of Monopoly. It still is today. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I said, what? He says, one of the greatest ways to acquire great wealth is playing Monopoly in real life. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. Well, is that all there is? He goes, that's it. And he says, what do you think I'm doing? And I went, I don't know. So then he took me out and he showed me his greenhouses. And 10 years later, when I was 19, I was now in school in New York, and I come back to Hawaii, and Rich Dad had bought the biggest piece of land smack dab in the middle of Waikiki Beach. And when you go to Waikiki Beach today, you'll see the Hyatt Regency Hotel. That was his hotel. He just kept it was called an assemblage, because that property wasn't that big at the time. So he had to buy out all the small guys, because Waikiki was a little dirt water little town. So he'd buy out this shop owner and buy that shop owner. And it took him a while, but he finally assembled this large piece of property. And then he and Hyatt put up this giant hotel. And it just sold for $800 million. The moment you accept the paycheck, your brain goes dead. He just got paid. He says, as long as you're hungry, you'll think. And he was a great, great teacher. So today when people ask me what I do, they know me as the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I just say I play Monopoly. So I own greenhouses, I own big hotels, I own oil wells, golf courses, businesses. I'm just playing Monopoly. That's all I do. And so as we know, there's a big attitude problem against the rich today.
I had a guest on my show recently and he said, poor people are selfish. Hit a lot of people below the belt. And he said, no, think about it. These people are selfish. They're always complaining about their problems. They're always focused on their own issues. Do you agree with that?
Well, the way you get rich is you solve other people's problems.
Right, that's how you create value. Right.
Yeah, if you could cure cancer today, you'd be a trillionaire. You'd be an instant trillionaire. Nah, I'm just too busy to work on that. I think I'll play golf instead. Well, when people ask, like, how did I get on Oprah? How did I write a book with Donald Trump, now President of the United States? Not that I'm endorsing him. He's much hated. Good man, though.
I want to talk about him.
But anyway, how could I have done that? Well, it wasn't my brain. It was, Oprah had me on the program because she's concerned also. Trump and I wrote the book together because we both had rich dads, and we both are advocates for financial education. And a lot of people just hate him because he's rich or he's obnoxious. He is obnoxious, I can't give it that. But we didn't get together for about money because we both had rich dads who taught us how to make money. Our schools don't teach that. Our schools teach almost the exact opposite of that. So anyway, how does a guy like me, a little kid with no money, and it wasn't I was poor, we're very middle class, I think my father was making about $20,000 a year. And when I graduated from college, I was making $120,000 a year. 6 times the amount he made. And I was 21 years old. And he goes, how'd you do that? I said, I didn't go to the same school you went to.
You used your mind in a different way.
No, I just followed my heart.
Okay.
I went to school to be a ship's officer to sail. So I sailed all over the world. And back this was in the 60s, if you sailed into the war zone, Vietnam, which I did, you got double the pay and no taxes. So that's how I was making $120,000 a year. And I come back, my father's still making $20,000 a year. I'm making $120K. And he can't understand it because he's a poor man in mind and in soul. He says, you've become like one of those rich guys. And I said, just because I have money? I'm in the war zone, I'm doing this. But it violated all the core values. See, the reason, as you had, is it Lipton?
Bruce Lipton on my show.
Bruce Lipton. Yeah. He says poverty is passed on. It's taught in your families. And middle class is taught in families. And I was really happy that, he endorsed Rich Dad, Poor Dad on your program. Because he says, I was taught by a rich man. And so the people right now who are sitting at home, who are struggling financially or worried about money or unhappy, they may be making a lot of money, but unhappy with what they're doing, it was probably taught to you. Your super ego was taught, get a job, work hard, or you'll never be rich, or the rich are evil, or whatever. If you're poor, you'll always be poor.
That's really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, the money will disappear that fast. Just like most pro athletes, they make millions of dollars, and 65% are bankrupt 5 years later. It's because they come from poor families. Now you tell them that, they get very angry at you. It's not, it's the rich fault. It's you guys ripped me off, and government ripped me off. But unfortunately, what Mr. Lipton was saying, it's passed down genetically. That's the frightening thing. So what Mr. Lipton was saying, what Trump and I are saying, and what Jim Rickards and Nomi Prince and all, we're saying we got to change what we teach our kids.